A $15,000 grant from the Memorial Health Foundation is helping the American Red Cross of the Ohio Valley upgrade how it collects blood. The funding is going toward a Power Red machine. Executive Director for the American Red Cross of the Ohio Valley, Sharon Kesselring, said the machine allows a single donor to give 2 units of red blood cells in one appointment instead of the usual one. Red blood cells are the part of blood most often needed for surgeries and emergency bleeding, including serious car wrecks and pregnancy complications. Kesselring said with this machine, donors give the red cells and the equipment returns the other components the Red Cross doesn't need from that donation, helping stretch the supply at a time when the inventories can run tight.
So we're able to use 2 red cells from a Power Red machine. That's why we call it Power Red. And it takes a little longer to do. You're hooked up to a very specialized machine in order to make that happen. And as a result, we do ask that you consider our donation time that takes up maybe 20 more minutes than what you normally would spend. But it's all to the benefit because it helps to ease that strain on our blood supply.
Eligibility is slightly different than a typical donation and can depend on your blood type. So they're asking people to schedule ahead when possible. The Marietta Community Foundation also donated a check to the American Red Cross to assist with what they call a bundle, a non-invasive way to test temperatures and hemoglobin levels.